Hello, good human. I'm Dr. Marie Murphy, and I am your non-judgmental infidelity coach. In today's video, we are going to talk about a question that people who are having affairs often ask themselves or ask me. And that question is, how do I know if my affair relationship is real? Or is my affair relationship real or not? And often, people ask themselves this question when they are trying to figure out what they want to do about their affair relationship, or because they are trying to figure out what they want to do about their affair relationship. And that's a pretty reasonable thing to do. Oh, gee, I'm having an affair. I'm engaging in some kind of infidelity. What do I want to do about that? It's totally reasonable and valuable to ask yourself that question. But what I will tell you is, asking yourself, is my affair real or not, is probably not going to help you at all with anything. And here's why. There is no absolute objective definition of what a real relationship is, or what counts as a quote unquote real relationship, or what makes a relationship real versus not real. And what this means is we probably have no way of answering our own question if our question is my affair relationship real or not? Unless, of course, you have come up with your own definition of what makes a relationship real. If you have, then you can ask yourself the question, is my relationship real? And you have some criteria for actually answering the question. And if you do, maybe the question of, is my affair relationship real or not, a helpful question for you to ask yourself. But what I want to suggest is that for a lot of people, asking yourself, is my affair relationship real, is not a good use of your mental energy. Throughout this video, especially towards the end, I will suggest a few questions that you might want to ask yourself about your affair relationship instead. But first, I do want to recognize that even if is my affair relationship real or not isn't a great question, people do often ask this question for really legitimate reasons. And I want to talk about two of those reasons right now, because it's important to recognize them and recognize why you might be asking yourself this question. Now, the first reason why people sometimes get stuck on the question of, is my affair relationship real, is because they've heard of this thing that we call new relationship energy, or limerence, or the honeymoon period. These concepts are defined differently to an extent, but they do overlap, and they all suggest that the beginning of a relationship is uniquely exciting, and they suggest that that unique excitement, by definition, cannot or will not last. And some people who talk about the experience of new relationship energy, or limerence, or the honeymoon period, say that because these good feelings won't last, that is a reason to discount or distrust the intensely good feelings that you may experience at the beginning of a new relationship. Now, there's a lot I can say about all of that, but I am not going to launch into my full rant right here and now. If you are interested in hearing more about my perspective on new relationship energy, check out episode 49 of my podcast. My podcast is called Your Secret is Safe with Me, and episode 49 is called In Defense of New Relationship Energy. Enough about that for now. For our purposes today, what I want you to know is that what I've seen happen over and over again is that people get the message that they should discount or distrust the good feelings they're experiencing at the beginning of a relationship. And this gets them really confused, because on the one hand, they're experiencing this amazing new connection with someone that feels profoundly good, something that feels better than anything they've experienced with anyone else ever in their entire lives. They're engaging with a new person in a way that feels fantastic to them. And it seems pretty darn real, so to speak. But then they start to do a little Googling and they read all of this stuff that what they're experiencing can't last or won't last or isn't actually real or whatever. And they start to get really confused. They think, well, I thought I knew that I was experiencing something pretty darn amazing. I thought I was really enjoying my experience with this new person, but maybe I'm just delusional. The internet says all of this stuff isn't real, so maybe I'm wrong about what I am experiencing. And when we start to entertain these kinds of doubts, we can become really confused and really unsure of ourselves. And as you may well know, that is not a fun place to be. Here's a really important piece of nuance that I think is often overlooked. It is true that new relationship energy can be really intoxicating. There have been studies done that have scanned the brains, I think, of people who are in the throes of new relationship energy and compared them to brain scans of people who are high on cocaine. And the brain scans of the people who are in the midst of new relationship energy are very similar to the brain scans of people who are high on cocaine. So if being really excited about a new person in your life kind of feels like a high, you're onto something. You are experiencing a high of sorts. What you are feeling is a high in a sense. But there's nothing wrong with enjoying a good high if you want to enjoy a good high. There's nothing wrong with enjoying the feeling of intoxication. Intensely good feelings aren't any less real than other feelings. However, being intoxicated or being high is a little different from not being intoxicated or not being high. There are some things that we definitely don't want to do when we're intoxicated. We don't want to operate heavy machinery, or at least I don't want you to operate heavy machinery. We probably don't want to make big, important decisions or binding decisions when our judgment might be altered or impaired, right? And it is also important to remember that some highs don't last. Some things that feel really good for a while do not feel good forever. Sometimes we meet someone and we are deliriously happy with them and things seem to be going great. And then we wake up one morning 3 weeks later and we say to ourselves, what the hell have I been thinking? What could I have ever seen in this person? This doesn't have to happen, but it can happen and it does happen. But what we don't talk about nearly enough is that some highs can be sustained. It is possible to get high on life and stay that way pretty consistently for as long as we want to. I'm completely serious about that. It's kind of another topic, but I'm dead serious about that. And it is also possible to find a person who you really enjoy and remain excited about that person pretty consistently for a long, long time. We don't talk about that nearly enough in our sort of collective mainstream discussion of relationships, but this can happen and does happen. And if you want this for yourself, you can have this for yourself. We often get into believing that, because the beginning of relationships can be uniquely exciting, that means that relationships by definition are only exciting at the beginning. But it doesn't have to be that way. That just isn't true in any absolute sense. A relationship that starts out awesome can continue to be awesome. It might not be awesome in the same way forever, and you might have to put some intentional effort into making it awesome. In fact, you probably will. But it absolutely is possible for you to continue to have a really good thing with someone you have just met and are extremely excited about. So I want you to consider that new relationship energy isn't something that you need to be suspicious of. You don't need to discount the good feelings you may be experiencing if you've recently met someone new and amazing and you're really excited about them. It is wise to be aware that new relationship energy can be pretty intoxicating And it is wise to be deliberate about the choices you make and the actions you take when you are all caught up in feeling this way. But you also don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Or to put it differently, just because you feel really good with someone doesn't mean your feelings for them aren't real. And just because you feel really good with someone, that doesn't mean that what you're feeling now can't continue in some form or another with that person. Your good feelings may evolve, but they don't have to disappear. Okay, so that's one reason, this like fear of new relationship energy or mistrust of new relationship energy, why people who are having affairs sometimes think that their affair relationship might not be real. On a distinct but related note, another common reason why people who are having affairs sometimes worry that their affair relationship isn't real is because they haven't yet experienced routine day-to-day life with their affair partner. Sometimes people say, well, our relationship exists in the affair bubble, so we're totally protected from all of the stuff that people in so-called normal relationships have to deal with. Nobody knows about our relationship. So it's kind of like our entire relationship exists within a hotel room, or only exists within certain limits. And in a way, a relationship that has limits is kind of limited, and that can be frustrating. But the kinds of limits that often come with affair relationships can also have a protective effect. And this is part of what a lot of people mean when they talk about the affair bubble. People do define the affair bubble in different ways. I'm not ignoring that, but we can't talk about all of the definitions of the affair bubble today. What some people are getting at is that within the affair bubble, you're possibly pretty exclusively focused on your affair partner whenever you see each other. There may be few, if any, outside kind of distractions or interferences with your relationship. And you may exist like on this, like lovely, like other planet that only the two of you can visit, where everything's perfect and there are unicorns and rainbows and, like cupcakes all the time, right? And that can be a pretty potently pleasant experience. So it is useful to recognize that the so-called affair bubble experience is quite possibly going to be different from the experience of having a relationship with someone outside of or beyond the affair bubble. If you and your affair partner eventually become a non-affair couple, if you start to share mundane aspects of life together, your experience of the relationship is quite possibly going to be different from your experience of the relationship within the affair bubble, maybe in some significant ways. But there are two things about this that are really important to point out. One is that life outside of the affair bubble might not be bad. It might not be as intense as life within the affair bubble, but even if the pleasures of your relationship shift and evolve, that does not have to be a bad thing. Affair relationships can be uniquely intoxicating, but they can also be uniquely stressful, right? And even if sometimes it's fun to be intoxicated, you might not always want to be intoxicated. So life with your former affair partner beyond the intoxication and stress of the affair bubble might be pretty good, even if there are challenges associated with dealing with mundane life stuff together. Also, it's important to remember that any relationship is likely to exist kind of outside of or separate from the mundane business of life at the beginning. If you were completely unattached and you started dating someone, would you start doing laundry with them immediately? Maybe you would, but maybe you wouldn't. Would you worry about how to jointly manage financial stuff immediately upon meeting someone new and great? Probably not. Would you get to see all of your new person's day-to-day quirks and tendencies all at once? No. We get to know someone gradually in any relationship, no matter how it starts. And in any relationship, the process of going from, do I want to go on a date with this person, to do I want to live my day-to-day life with this person and deal with shared life stuff with them, can be gradual. And there's only so much that you can know about someone before you actually start having a more mundane experience of life together with them. We can't know ahead of time what the next phase or a future phase of any relationship is going to be like. And that is not unique to relationships that start as affairs. So if you're thinking that your affair relationship isn't real, whatever that means, because you haven't lived with your affair partner yet, or you're thinking that you don't know whether your relationship would work if you actually live together, I want you to ask yourself this. Would you want to try to live, quote unquote, normal life with your affair partner? Would you want to have a non-affair relationship with your affair partner? Now, when I ask people that kind of a question, they often say something like, well, that question doesn't matter because it isn't possible for my affair partner and I to be a quote unquote normal couple right now because they're married and I'm married and we can't live together. We can't even see each other publicly. Or they give me some other non-answer to that question. Here's the deal, people. You need to answer that question. Do you want to try living with your affair partner? Would you like to experience day-to-day life with them? If you think about those questions or any closely related questions, you just might decide that you actually do not have any interest in living with your affair partner ever. You might come to the conclusion that you really like spending time with them in hotel rooms, but you don't actually want to know what their housekeeping habits are like. And that's useful clarity. Sometimes when we look closely, we want to keep our affair within the affair bubble. We don't want the affair relationship to be anything more than an affair. But on the other hand, you just might say, I would love to do the dishes with my affair partner. I want nothing more than to discover what it's like to deal with the mundane business of life with them. I want to learn more about all of their weird quirks and habits and idiosyncrasies. I want the opportunity to share more of life with them and love more of them in the process. And that's useful clarity too, right? Now, there is one other thing about affair relationships that is really important for me to point out. If you are in a new relationship that is an affair, you're probably experiencing some new relationship energy type stuff, plus or multiplied by the excitement that can come with being in an affair relationship. Affairs can be uniquely exciting. And if you're in an affair, you're kind of, by definition, doing something that you're not really supposed to be doing. And although that may be nerve-wracking, it may also be exhilarating. Whatever deception you may be engaging in may be stressful, but it may also be new and novel, and that can feel really enlivening, right? A forbidden love affair may be anxiety-inducing, but it can also be thrilling. And so when we match that up with new relationship energy, we may be like living in like a whole nother galaxy, right? And it's totally legitimate to enjoy that experience. It's totally legitimate to enjoy these really potent, intensely pleasurable emotions. It's legitimate to enjoy the parts of your new relationship that are inextricable from the affair aspect of the relationship. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not evil if you're enjoying this stuff. But it is important to remember that even if what you're experiencing is a real experience, insofar as you are actually experiencing it, it might not be a sustainable experience, or it might not be an experience that you would want to try to sustain, even if you could. What many people find is that although the excitement of having an affair can be pretty darn great, it's not how they want to live on an ongoing basis. I'm not speaking for everyone, of course, but this is definitely true for a lot of folks. So the opportunity lies in being willing to make decisions like would I want to continue a relationship with this person if we were not having an affair? If I don't want to continue engaging in any kind of infidelity, what's the path forward with my affair partner? Do I want to pursue something with them and make the changes in my life that will enable me to do so without our relationship being an affair? Or am I really not that excited about pursuing a relationship with my affair partner? Maybe I'm just excited about the excitement that has come with engaging with them. Maybe it's not them that I really want, right? Asking yourself these kinds of questions is totally different from asking yourself, is my affair relationship real or not? Okay, so those are two common reasons why people sometimes ask themselves if their affair is real or not. To recap, you may have gotten the message that new relationship energy won't last and shouldn't be trusted and therefore isn't real. 2, you may have gotten the message that affair relationships by definition aren't real since you haven't yet experienced normal life together and you're existing within the affair bubble, which supposedly is totally divorced from reality. But as I said earlier, there's really no absolute definition for what counts as a real relationship and what doesn't. Some of the things you're experiencing in your affair may be very real to you indeed. So instead of spending any more time on wondering if your affair relationship is real or not, here's what I suggest you do instead. Start asking yourself, how do I feel about my affair relationship? And how do I feel about my affair partner? Asking these questions is a good way to take your own emotional temperature. If you answer, I am completely obsessed with my affair partner and I desire to spend every single second with them, that could be an indication that you are a little drunk on affair juice. You could be a little high on new relationship energy on steroids, especially if you have only been involved with your affair partner for a matter of weeks, right? On the other hand, if you ask yourself, how do I feel about my affair partner? And your answer is something like, I feel deep, abiding love and appreciation for my affair partner and the connection we share, and you've been involved for more than what you consider to be a little while, well, that could be an indication that you really like and value what you share with your person. On that note, you may also want to ask yourself, what exactly do I like about my affair partner and about my relationship with them? This is a question you can also answer. If you come up with a robust list of answers about what you like about your affair partner and your relationship with them, that's an indication that there's something there that you really like and value. On the other hand, if you can't think of anything specific that you like about your affair partner other than, I feel really amazing when I'm with them, that's an indication of something too. Finally, for today's purposes, if you've been asking yourself, is my affair real or not? Ask yourself why you are asking that question. It is possible that you're asking that question because you want to figure out what you want to do about your affair relationship. And if that's what you want to do, great. Deciding what you want to do about your affair relationship is doable. It's a good idea at some point for most people. And if you need help doing that, I can help you do it. But what do I want to do about my affair is very different from the question of, is my affair real or not? Right? Now, it is also possible that you're asking yourself, is my affair relationship real or not? Because your brain has decided that that is an important and interesting question to fixate on. Let me tell you something. Our brains prefer to be entertained than to not be entertained. Our minds, unless we have trained them to do otherwise, love to have things to think about that seem interesting or exciting or important. And the question, is my affair relationship real or not, can seem really interesting and exciting and important. And because of that, it can get really easy to get sucked into ruminating on that question And because for most of us, this is an unanswerable question, we may end up ruminating on this question endlessly. And for a while, this might be kind of fun for your brain. It can be really fun to think about your affair partner and your affair relationship for any reason, from any angle. But on the other hand, if you keep asking yourself this question over and over again, you're probably going to start to drive yourself crazy. And although going crazy might actually be kind of entertaining for a little while, it might not be entertaining in a good way forever. So knock it off with the unanswerable questions. Instead of asking yourself unanswerable questions over and over and over again, learn how to start asking yourself questions that you can actually answer and then answer those questions. That is how you start to reduce the confusion you may feel about your infidelity situation. And that's how you start to build clarity and certainty about what you want and how you decide what you're going to do about what you want. And if you don't know what counts as an answerable question, or you don't know what questions you want to ask yourself about your infidelity situation, I can help you with that. There are 2 ways that I can help you resolve your infidelity situation in a way that you feel great about. If you want access to my powerful teachings and assignments that will help you make use of my teachings in your own life, you can enroll in my online course. You're not the only one. Once you enroll, you get 24/7 access to all of the course materials, which means you can work with my wisdom and guidance on your own schedule and at your own pace. If you want to become a private client of mine, you can schedule an introductory coaching session with me, which will be held via Zoom. You can do both of these things. You can sign up for either of these options or learn more about both of these options through my website, mariemurphyphd.com. Now, whether you decide to work with me or not, I encourage you to take the next concrete step towards dealing with your infidelity situation in a way that's truly right for you, starting today. Engaging in infidelity can be exciting and great, at least in some ways and at least for a while, but you probably do not want the rest of your life to be consumed by the drama and difficulties of your infidelity situation. You have got important things to do in the world. And focusing on your infidelity situation eats up a lot of the time and energy that you could be using on so many other important things. So let's get to work. Let's help you create the love life that you truly want to be living. And let's make sure that you have enough energy left over for all of the other important things in your life too. All right? Okay, everybody, that is it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.